Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our What's New on Power BI webcast. My name is Sudharshan Ramani, and I'm a data and analytics consultant here at Thorogood, based in our London office. I have about 7 years of experience in this field and have worked extensively on Power BI the last 4 years. I have led and delivered large-scale reporting solutions for clients across different domains. I'm joined by my colleague SriHarsha here, who will be looking to do some demo content of some of the Power BI features we go through today. Over to you, Harsha, for a quick intro.
Hi all, my name is SriHarsha and I'm a data and analytics consultant at Thorogood based in our India office. I have about 3 years of experience in this field and work quite extensively on the Microsoft technology stack, primarily on Power BI. I have helped design and develop reporting solutions for different clients during my time here.
Thank you, Harsha. Also, feel free to get in touch with me via my contact details on the screen if you'd like to discuss today's topic. So here's our agenda for the session. I'll start with a brief introduction of Thorogood. Post this, we shall get into the topic of the day, that is the features that were released in Power BI in 2022. Next, we will look into what lies ahead for Power BI in 2023. And finally, we will wrap up the webcast with the potential next steps on your Power BI journey and how we could help you. So who are we and what do we do? We are an independent professional services consulting firm specializing in data and analytics solutions. We operate as a single organization serving our customers globally, working in leveraged teams across our offices in Boston, Philadelphia, London, Bangalore, Singapore, and Sao Paulo. We provide a full range of services to support business goals. This includes, but is not limited to, covering the end-to-end life cycle of any project, from initial strategy and roadmap definitions to gathering requirements, designing and implementing complex systems, training and supporting business users through maintenance and support. As I had mentioned, we are independent. We don't work with one specific technology. Instead, we partner with a wide array of technology firms in the business intelligence and analytics market, including back-end, front-end, and analytics-driven technologies. We find this independence quite helpful to have a holistic view of the space, understand our customers regardless of their current data landscape, and identify the best possible solutions for our customers based upon their needs. A key and close partner for us is Microsoft. We've been partners in relevant specialties with Microsoft for over 20 years, and we have held seats on Microsoft's Global Business Intelligence and Advanced Analytics Partner Advisory Council for that amount of time. This provides us with insights into Microsoft's product and services roadmap in the space, but also a platform for feedback in terms of what we're experiencing in the market. We've also been featured on Microsoft's Power BI Partner Showcase, which is a resource Microsoft have made available online to highlight the art of the possible in Power BI by having partners create dashboards that are available to view. With that, let's just jump right into the topic for the day, the 2022 Power BI feature overview. So there's been a lot of exciting new features released on Power BI in 2022, either in preview or general release mode. We have picked out a few interesting ones today, which could have a big impact in the way one goes about with their reporting requirements. We have grouped them into the following 4 broad categories: visualizations, data modeling, Power BI service, and integration with other tools. The intent here is to really give you an idea of where Power BI is headed. We will start off with the visualization section and go through these features one by one. I'll explain the feature, and for some of these, I will flash up a little demo and will also try to provide some relevant use cases and perspectives on when and how to use these features. Let's start off with the most exciting feature that was released last year, field parameters. It is a Power BI feature that empowers the report users to dynamically change the measures or dimensions being utilized in the report. This feature was released in May 2022. With the introduction of field parameters, it has removed the cumbersome process of creating bridge tables and measures to dynamically switch the axis, legends, or measures in a visualization. For the purpose of the demo, I have already created a data model with some basic dimensions such as country, brand, customer, time, and a fact table for sales. As you can see, I've got a template report in place. So let me start off by creating my parameters. I need to go to the modeling section, click on new parameter, and click on fields. For the purpose of the demo, I'm going to be creating 2 parameters, a dimension parameter and a measure parameter. First, I'm going to create the dimension parameter. So I'm bringing in my different dimension columns. So let me select brand, country, customer. I'm going to remove the option to add slicer and hit on create. That would create a query on my right side in the fields pane. Similarly, I'm going to be creating a measure parameter as well. So I'm going to be bringing in three different measures from my sales table. So I've got my sales actuals, sales target, and sales volume. I'm going to remove the add slicer option, click on create, and it creates a query over here. So now that we have got our parameters created, I'm going to pull these parameters into the different visualizations and slicers I have got as a placeholder here. So let's start off with the dimension parameter. So this is a slicer over here. I'm going to bring my dimension parameter. So that's going to be bringing in brand, country, and customer. Similarly, I've got one more slicer where I'm going to bring in my measure parameter, which is going to show sales actuals, target, and volume. Now, let's say I want to be able to view the rows within each of these columns, that is brand, country, or customer. So I'm going to bring in the dimension parameter again into the slicer over here. Click on the arrow mark, click on show values of selected field. So if brand is selected, we're going to have the different brands. If I click on country, we're going to have the different countries. So same goes for the customer. So I've got two visualizations over here. The left one is a bar chart. So I'm going to bring in my dimension parameter into y-axis and my measure parameter into the x-axis. Similarly, I've got a table over here. I'm going to bring the dimension parameters and the measure parameters. So now when I switch between my different dimensions, my visualization is going to be showing accordingly. So if I click on country, I'll be viewing the data across countries. If I click on brand, I view it across brand. Similarly, I want to say view only sales actuals and volume, and I want to do the comparison between brand 5 and brand 8. So I can simply just have to go and select in my different slicers, and it's going to be showing me the values accordingly in the visualization. Next up, we have another interesting topic, small multiples. So this was a feature which was released back in 2020. It allowed a report user to view a particular KPI or measure against different values in an attribute. This feature was brought in to allow quick comparison between attributes. But a major flaw with small multiples was that it wasn't able to plot KPIs against a dimension with highly varied values. For example, on the screen that you're seeing, we are trying to look at sales actuals against categories, but the total sales value of each category is highly varying, and hence the visual is not showing all sections of the small multiples, as they all share the same y-axis. Now, Microsoft has introduced a property now to toggle the shared axis off as seen on the right. So now you should be able to view all of the attributes of customer against actuals against different y-axis scales. Moving on to the next feature, conditional formatting. This is a feature which has been around in Power BI for a while and is specifically used a lot in matrix visuals. As part of the new release in August 2022, conditional formatting is now available against each data point in the line chart as well, rather than at an aggregate level. So for example, in the chart below, if you want to color the data labels based on the value, we can now go to the property pane, the data label settings, and change the color using the expression button. We could set the colors dynamically based on the sales actuals value. The use case for this is potentially when you want to indicate a measure in a time series is above or below a particular value, such as say target or so on, as seen in this line chart over here. Moving on to the next one, error bars. So this is one of the most useful features where Power BI introduced in the past year was the concept of error bars. This will help visualize uncertainty in your data. Now, uncertainty is an important aspect of data, especially in scientific disciplines or other fields where the displayed values of a point needs to be contextualized by the range of its possible values. With this new feature, you can specify the upper and lower bounds to the values on your visual and customize the way the uncertainty is visualized. Over 3 months, this feature has been rolled out to 4 visuals: line charts, clustered column charts, bar charts, and column and line combination charts. Errors can be visualized in terms of field value, percentage, percentile, or standard deviation. In the example we have here, we have made use of field value to determine error and have provided a lower and upper bound. The first section uses relative errors, meaning the error is determined relative to the data point. The next 2 graphs make use of absolute errors, where the lower and upper bound is predetermined for each data point and shows the exact value of upper or lower bound. So moving on to the next bucket, data modeling. We've had quite a few updates in 2022 in this bucket. We have selected the top 4 updates under this bucket, which are dynamic mQuery parameters, natural language processing, new DAX functions, and optimized ribbon. I'm now handing over to my colleague Harsha to take us through these features.
So let's take a look at the first feature under data modeling bucket. Dynamic mQuery parameters is a Power BI feature that is supported on direct query and composite models. It enables the reports to access the values that users select on slicers and use them in the query that is sent to the data source for optimized retrieval of data. Developers can now write efficient queries using these parameters to improve report performance. As part of the April 2022 update, this feature has been extended to T-SQL-based sources, Teradata, and others. It is now compatible with AI features such as Q&A, decomposition tree, key influencers, and anomaly detection. In the video, we have a sample Power BI report that uses two dynamic mQuery parameters, one that controls the number of rows fetched from the source and the other for filtering the department groups. These parameters are then used in the source query to only fetch filtered data from SQL Server. Once this is done, users can switch over to the model view, select the column whose value should be passed to the parameter, and set the property called bind to parameter to the correct parameter. Once that is done, if the column is filtered via a slicer, only the rows corresponding to those values are fetched from the source and displayed in the report. Quick measure suggestions is another interesting feature that came out in 2022. It is a new way to assist creation of DAX measures using natural language instead of using templates or writing DAX from scratch. For example, if you want to create a rolling 28-day average of sales, you just have to create a quick measure, toggle to the Suggestions tab, and type your requirement. Once you click on Generate, Power BI automatically generates the DAX for the requirement and displays it. Users can quickly verify it and use it in their reports. Beginners in Power BI can use this feature to quickly generate the DAX for the calculations that they want to create. This will substantially reduce the effort that goes into creating measures. Next up, we're going to look at a few new DAX functions that were introduced in 2022. The first one that we're going to look at is Network Days. Network Days function enables the user to compute the number of working days between two given dates. This function accepts four parameters. The first two parameters are pretty intuitive, that is start date and end date. The third parameter lets the user control what days are weekends. By default, Saturday and Sunday are treated as the weekend days, but Power BI currently provides up to 17 different options for weekend day combinations. The fourth parameter allows users to pass a set of dates which should be considered as holidays. These will be excluded from working days if they fall in the range between start date and end date. As seen in the visual, the measure on the top card assumes weekends as Saturdays and Sunday, and I have provided 26th January as a holiday. Hence, the number of working days it calculates is 4. In the bottom card, we are considering only Saturday as weekend, and hence the number of work days are 7. This function comes in handy in scenarios where a company wants to understand the number of billable days or hours in a month, or to calculate number of working days left in a month, etc. Just towards the end of 2022, a few interesting DAX functions were introduced that helps users with comparison calculations. Let's first look at index and the offset functions. The index function returns a row at an absolute position. In contrast, the offset function returns a row positioned before or after the current row by a given offset. In the first table visual, the measure for sales of earliest year uses index function with position parameter 1 applied on the year column. So the measure always shows the sales value for the first year no matter what year is selected on the row. Similarly, in the measure for sales of second earliest year, we use an index value of 2 and hence always see the value associated with 2019. In the second table visual, the measure for sales previous year uses offset function with position parameter -1 applied on the year column. So the measure now shows the sales for the year preceding it. Hence, the measure displays the sales value of 2018 against 2019, 2019 against 2020, and so on. The position parameter can be altered to fetch any row preceding or succeeding it. Index and offset functions are useful to fetch value of a single row. But what if we want to access more than one row at a time? That's where window function comes in. Using window function, we can essentially get a range of rows given their starting and ending position. The start and end positions can either be absolute or relative. Here, we can see that the window function is being used to calculate rolling 3-month average of sales. The position parameter is -2 relative, which means for every row, we get the current row, and the preceding two rows. We can do any aggregation on top of the returned rows. In the example, average is the aggregation function used, and hence the rolling 3-month average sale is returned. In the same measure, we can specify partition by year so that the window function is now applied independently for each partition, that is each year in this scenario. These comparison DAX functions are extremely useful when we want to compute moving average sales values, compare sales in the current month with previous month, etc. Now, have you ever wanted to stop visuals from loading while you're still making changes? Have you ever wanted to edit multiple DAX measures without updating the report canvas in between those edits? If you answered any of these questions with a yes, then pause visuals is for you. In connection modes like direct query, every small change like creation or updation of measures, addition or removal of columns, triggers a visual refresh which consumes a significant amount of development time. You can now pause all the visuals, make any changes you want, and then refresh visuals with the new Optimize Ribbons button. There are 3 optimization presets available to users as part of this feature. The first one is query reduction. In this mode, cross-highlighting and cross-filtering of visuals is disabled. Every slicer gets an apply button, and only upon clicking that button, the filters are applied. The second mode is interactivity, which is the default mode. Cross-highlighting and cross-filtering of visuals is enabled. Slicer selections automatically apply. The third mode is customize mode, where users can choose whether cross-filtering or cross-highlighting is enabled. Slicer behavior can also be controlled. Moving on, Power BI service also has undergone major updates in 2022. We have selected the following 4 features under this bucket. They are Power BI metrics, sensitivity labels, automatic aggregations, and data hubs. Let's look at what these features are all about. Power BI metrics is probably one of the biggest updates of the year 2022. This feature has received an update almost every month in the year and is gathering a lot of attention. Power BI metrics, formerly known as Power BI goals, is a data-driven, collaborative, and adaptable way to measure key business metrics and goals built directly on top of Power BI. It enables teams to easily curate business metrics that matter most and aggregate them in a unified view. From there, teams can measure progress against their goals, proactively share updates with their teammates, and dive deeper into their data when something needs further analysis. Users can easily monitor the health of their business, bringing in data across multiple Power BI workspaces and creating scorecards to drive impact. As seen in the image, a scorecard contains multiple metrics, and each metric can be assigned an owner to drive alignment and accountability. Each metric also has a status that helps users understand if the metric is on track or is falling behind. Users can create rules that determine how status of these metrics can be computed. Against each metric, under the progress column, we can quickly view the current value of the metric against the final target or the next milestone. By default, the day-over-day change is displayed in the progress column, which can be changed to week-over-week, month-over-month, or to any other time granularity. In the trend column, a small line chart is plotted depicting the trend in variation of the metric over the past few days. Users can also assign start date and due date to metrics, which is displayed in the last column. Metrics can be designed to get data from Power BI reports, or from manual check-ins by users, or by aggregating values of its submetrics. Let's switch over to Power BI service to quickly look at a demo scorecard. Now, this is how a typical Power BI scorecard looks like. It has multiple metrics, and you can see that there are owners assigned to each metric. Notice that there can be more than one owner assigned to a specific metric. In order to create a new metric, users can just click on New and click on New Metric. Now, this will create a new metric tab wherein users can enter the name of the metric, assign owners, give current value of the metric, set up final target or the next milestone, set up rules based on which status is determined, give start date and due date, etc. Since we've already created metrics, let's try to understand metrics by viewing what we have created here. If we look at the first metric, which is the marketing spend, we see that the status is over budget. Now, let's try to understand how this is determined. If we click on the update rules, we see that there are 2 rules written for this particular metric. If the value is greater than 100% of target, which means value exceeds target, we give the status as over budget. If value is less than target, then it is on track. Users can select from a range of statuses that are provided by Power BI. Now, since the current value 1020 is greater than the next milestone, which is 975, according to our rule, the status has to be over budget, and that is what we see. Now, next to the current value, we notice that this metric is manual, which means this metric is not connected to any Power BI data set, and users would have to manually come and give value for this metric periodically. Let's look at how users can assign value to a metric. So users would just have to click on the metric and go to the new check-in option under check-in history. Once they go here, they see a date slicer wherein they can select any specific date. For example, let me select today and give the value for that particular day. Now I'm going to change 1020 to 900. Users can also include a note wherein they can mention description for this and also tag people. Now let me just save this metric. As you can see, the status of the metric has changed from over budget to on track. This is because the current value is now lesser than the target. Let's try to do the same thing on the second metric, wherein I just click the metric and try to create a new check-in. Here we notice that Power BI does not give us an option to input the value of the metric. This is because the metric is actually connected to an underlying Power BI report from which it is fetching data. If you connect to data or edit connection, you can actually see how the metric is getting its value. You can connect to a sample report and then just click on any data point to use that data point as the value of the metric. If your visual also has a time dimension associated with it, you can just track all data points in the time series or just track one data point. Now, if you would have noticed that there are sub-metrics under a given metric. Now, a metric can also get its value from its sub-metrics. If I'm editing the spend metrics, I can see that the current value is an aggregation of its sub-metrics. Right now, the aggregation is sum, but it can be changed to average, max, or min. Since we are summing up the sub-metrics, the current value is then determined by sum of all its sub-metrics. You can do a lot more using Power BI metrics, and this is very helpful for organizations because their data could generally be scattered across multiple reports, and a single scorecard could get data from all of those metrics and display it in a single place. You can also add owners to have accountability for each metric. I will now hand it over to Sudharshan to discuss further about the other updates.
An important security feature that was introduced in Power BI service a while back was sensitivity labels. In the past year, Microsoft has introduced new features to sensitivity labels, starting with downstream inheritance. So if a report developer has indicated sensitivity labels such as private or organizational during development of a particular data set, when this data set is published to Power BI service and the data set is used by other report developers, the sensitivity label set up for that particular data set gets automatically inherited for all downstream reports using that data set. This could be just reports, or it could be the Analyze in Excel option, or even when you export it to PowerPoint or PDFs. Next up, we have the default label policies. This is a control feature in which a Microsoft 365 administrator can enable a default label policy in Power BI by selecting a desired label in the policy settings on the Microsoft Purview compliance portal. So in Power BI Desktop, when a user tries to save or publish a report without the label, it automatically assumes the default label set up by the organization. Finally, we have the mandatory label policy, which when turned on by the administrator, enforces a user to select a sensitivity label for any new reports, dashboards, or datasets while saving or publishing. On the whole, sensitivity labels ensure comprehensive protection and governance of sensitive data. Next up, we have automatic aggregations. Automatic aggregations use state-of-the-art machine learning programs to optimize direct query datasets. It is built on top of existing user-defined aggregations infrastructure. It is a feature which is both self-training and self-optimizing. They enable dataset owners of any skill level to improve query performance and provide faster report visualizations. With direct query, each time a dataset user opens a report or interacts with the report visualization, DAX queries are passed to the query engine and then to the backend data source such as SQL. The data source must calculate and return results for each query. When automatic aggregations are enabled for a direct query dataset, it can boost report query performance as seen in the graph by avoiding data source query round trips. Pre-aggregated query results are automatically returned by an in-memory aggregations cache rather than being sent to and returned by the data source. This particular setting can be easily configured in the dataset settings on Power BI service. Next up, we have Data Hub. Data Hub is a new section available to users in Power BI service as seen in the left of the pane. The Data Hub is a collection of all data items in your organization, such as data sets or data marts. The Data Hub could be useful in many scenarios. Data item owners can view usage metrics, refresh status, related reports, lineage and impact analysis to monitor and manage data assets. Report creators can use the hub to find suitable items to build reports. And finally, report consumers can use the hub to find reports based on trustworthy data items. In Power BI Desktop, with the Data Hub, users can find datasets and data marts side by side, filter and search to find data they need, and then connect to create a report. Next up, we have the integration bucket. As part of this, we'll be looking at the Power BI integration with PowerPoint and Teams in this section. First thing, Power BI storytelling PowerPoint. So before I get into Power BI's integration with PowerPoint, I want to talk about data storytelling. Data storytelling is very similar to human storytelling, but provides the added benefits of deeper insights and supporting evidences through graphs and charts. Through data storytelling, complicated information is simplified so that your audience can engage with your content and make critical decisions quicker and more confidently. This feature, where you can embed a live Power BI report into a PowerPoint deck, you can enhance your data storytelling with live interactive Power BI data. Not only will the data be shown in your presentation be always up to date, but also while you're presenting, you'll be able to filter and drill down on data in response to questions or feedback from your audience without having to switch contexts. To do this, we simply get the report URL from Power BI service, navigate to the Insert button in PowerPoint, click on the Power BI button, and input the report URL. Next, we have Microsoft Teams integration. Organizations rely on Teams, Outlook, and Office to enable remote work and keep employees in sync. The feature you see on your screen is integration of Power BI into Microsoft Teams. The feature is built in as if the Power BI service lives inside Microsoft Teams. You can do almost everything in Teams that you could do in Power BI service, such as create, view, or edit dashboards, reports, and apps. To enable this, you can navigate to your channel, click on the plus sign on top, click on Power BI, and select any report or dashboard to add to the channel. Apart from the features that we have gone through before, there's been a lot of other new features that has been released in 2022, which have had a profound impact on the way Power BI functions and the way you use this technology. We have listed out the important features across the different buckets, that is visualization, data modeling, Power BI service, and integration. Let's start by looking ahead at the future that Power BI is embarking on. Over the past few years, we have seen some exciting new features and enhancements, all of which are bringing Power BI closer to its ultimate vision. The vision is to empower everyone in an organization to use Power BI. Power BI is democratizing data and analytics. Everyone in your organization can create reports, analyze data, and derive value from data. And it's not just about everyone within the organization. It's also about utilizing it for every decision. We have technologies within Power Platform, within Azure, which have the flexibility to use Power BI for every decision, whether it may be reporting, predictive analytics, modeling and cleansing, and so on. All of this is possible in Power BI. And with those options increasing more than ever before, and with collaboration of other technologies, you can really do it at any scale. So with Power BI already at a position where it is predominantly used across organizations to empower people from different backgrounds, be it citizen analyst or specialized data analytics team, or even senior leadership, there's a growing requirement for the tool to introduce features which provide data and report governance and scalability structures. Microsoft's key focus in the past year has been to introduce features to ensure trust and compliance, to drive adoption and enterprise-level reporting, enhance connectivity to sources, accelerate performance, integrate with other Microsoft offerings, and security implementation. The expectation is for Microsoft to further their stance in these key topics in the upcoming year as well. Microsoft and Power BI in specific has been maintaining the edge in terms of ability to execute and completeness of vision over the past 5 years, as seen in the quadrants published by Gartner year on year. Their key goal is to maintain their position as market leader in an increasingly evolving market. So here's a highlight of features that are scheduled to be released as part of Power BI 2023 Release Wave 1. The key takeaways from this are Microsoft is aiming to release features leading to improved data integration and management features, enhanced data visualization capabilities such as interactive dashboards, augmented reality and virtual reality integration, more robust collaboration and sharing features to allow for real-time data sharing, integration with other Microsoft technologies such as Azure Purview, Dynamics 365, and Teams, and finally, expansion of AI and machine learning capabilities, including predictive analytics and automated insights. With that, I come to the end of my webcast. Thank you so much for joining today. Please do reach out to me using the contact information on screen if you have any questions from today. Thank you.